Hi, I'm Tim Carter. How are you today? I'm doing pretty good. It's uh it's a cold day here in New Hampshire. January, what is it, the 26th in 2022. And uh but staying warm. Thank goodness for propane and electricity. I want to let you know that today's live stream is being sponsored by um and why today is my name not in yellow? Typically, it's in yellow. I don't get what's going on here. Anyway, this book, I wrote it, Roofing Ripoff. And basically, a lot of you have been ripped off, in my opinion, by the asphalt shingle manufacturers. It's all in here. You can get it for free. Get this book for free, PDF copy. The best part is it tells you, I share a secret with you. I was the first person in the world to discover how to extend the life of current asphalt shingles by an extra 30 years or so, maybe 40 years. It's all in the book. Get it for free. Just go to that link right there. If you, let me catch you up to speed on what's happened. I wasn't here yesterday because I found out late the night before that I had to go to Boston to pick up my daughter at the airport. And I had to leave here just as the live stream would have started. So I would have been late picking her up. That would have not been good. In fact, I really timed it pretty well. I got there maybe 10 minutes. Well, let's put it this way. I got there just as the plane probably landed and was beginning to taxi because I was probably there only 10 minutes and she was outside. Louise, it's going great. Welcome. I'm glad you enjoy the live stream. It's a lot of fun. Hello, Marlon. Pleasure to have you here. Anyway, the other thing that happened yesterday, I'd never had this happen to me before, and I don't want to say I was nervous. I guess I was a little bit, but I had to have a tooth pulled, my upper right wisdom tooth way in the back. And, I don't know. I just kind of anticipated that can't be pleasant. Well, with modern day drugs and Novocaine, I was awake the whole time. They just numb up the area. Didn't feel a thing. I mean, the only thing you feel is a little bit of pressure, and what they do, that the dentist, he just uses some tools and they just kind of lever the tooth out. I was kind of surprised how long it took. I don't know why. I thought, come on, can't you get that thing out of there in a minute or two? And I'm guessing that he monkeyed with that thing a good 10 minutes. And I don't know if you're a dentist or not, but maybe, or a dental assistant. You might do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you just go in there and rip it out, you might cause a lot of damage to the gum, maybe too much pressure on the jawbone, and you definitely want to get the root out. So you have to be a little careful. So you make sure that you don't break the tooth off from the root. What do I know? I'm no dentist. But so I didn't take any pain medication. You could take some Tylenol or ibuprofen. It was a little, I had a kidney stone about 6 years ago, and I know if you've never looked at the pain level chart, there's actually a chart from 1 to 10 to show you, what level pain you're at. And I know that doctors and healthcare people use that chart because they can look at you and they can see how you're reacting to know what level you're at. And of course, now everybody, in other words, I may tolerate what's a pain level 3 for me might be a pain level 8 for you. Some people are just it doesn't take a lot to get them up to 10. Anyway, uh, so so I would say that yesterday, after the local anesthetic wore off, that I was probably at a pain level 3. You know, you could feel it. It was kind of a dull ache, but it didn't dominate my thoughts. When pain starts to dominate your thoughts and make it make it impossible for you to work or concentrate, you're starting to get into the 4 or 5 and 6 area. But just go look it up. Go look up the pain chart. Pretty interesting. It's actually very interesting. Remember, if you're new here, if you have a question about your home, if there's something I can help you with, you need to type it in the chat. You only have that capability if you have a YouTube account. And you have to be able to, if you're not a YouTuber, then you can't use the chat because it uses your username, as you might be able to see if you're watching this. I have a question for you. If you happen, hopefully you do have a YouTube account and you can answer this. If you happen to be a Zoom expert, my question is, when you have a free Zoom account like I have, the call is limited to 40 minutes and then they shut it off. So my question is, can you use the same invite? Can everybody just kind of get out of the call, disconnect, and then everybody reconnect to a new call a minute or two later using the same exact link for the first call? Do you know if that can happen or not? I've tried to look online, and you would think that would be a simple question to answer, but it's kind of complex. I wasn't finding a really good answer that I felt comfortable with. I'll continue to ask that once we see, maybe Steve or somebody else somebody who uses Zoom all the time. All right, so let's talk now a little bit about what the topic is. Let's talk a little bit about drywall mud. And if you have, actually, let's create a poll. This would be kind of fun. It'll be interesting to see if you can respond to this poll if you're not a YouTuber. That's going to be kind of interesting. Let's see here. All right, there we go. So go ahead and hopefully you can, you can take that poll, you can answer. Let's see. It's really interesting. Yeah, there we go. We're getting some answers in. This is good. Good. We're getting some answers. First of all, drywall mud, what I'm talking about, I think when most people talk about drywall mud, they're talking about the pre-mixed drywall mud, drywall joint compound that comes in either buckets or boxes. And many years ago, back when I was building, is when at first it just came in buckets. And the manufacturers discovered that they could save some money because the plastic buckets were expensive, but the plastic buckets are very useful too. You can see how useful they are because when you go to the big box stores, both the orange people and the blue people, they sell them with their branded name on it. I happen to have a couple of favorite buckets of my own that are different colors. And just so you know, if you want drywall buckets, like a 5-gallon bucket, and you want it in different colors, like red or blue or green or yellow or whatever, you can buy them online. You can buy colored drywall buckets till the cows come home. Just go look on Amazon. They're right there. That's a little sidebar. Drywall mud. When I first started my syndicated newspaper column back in 1993, one of the first people to find me. Well, first of all, you need to understand one of the first papers that started to publish it was the Chicago Tribune. It just so happens that United States Gypsum Corporation is headquartered in Chicago. And at the time, they had he was a pretty sharp guy. His name was Marty Duffy. He worked in their public relations department, and he reached out to me early on, and we became friends. And sadly, what happened to Marty, his hobby, he was a scuba diver, and I'd say maybe in the year 2000, it'd just be my guess. He passed away in a scuba diving accident, and he something went wrong, and he came up too fast or was down too deep or whatever. But he, you hear people getting the bends, and the gas comes out of your blood. Anyway, Marty passed away. What a shame. He was good. He was a good guy. Early on, I wrote a column about drywall mud and drywall, and the way I referenced the drywall mud, and you need to understand this because this is really important. The way I referenced the drywall mud in the column, Marty's boss, who was the head of the public relations department, he was reading my column coming into town one day on the train, and he did not like what I wrote. Because what I wrote, one of the things I've always tried to do is I've tried to explain things in building and remodeling in a way that you can understand. I've always had that talent. I had homeowners tell me that back when I was building, that I could make very complex things very understandable for them. I described the drywall mud as just being dust and glue. I said, you're just getting a bucket of dust, glue, and water, and maybe a few other additives. He didn't like that because I think it made the product sound cheap, or just like it. I mean, who wants to buy a bunch of dust? But the truth is, that's what it is. And it's really important that you understand this, because this is why you can ruin drywall mud. And I have talked about this in past live streams about concrete, and I've talked about ceramic floor tile grout and regular wall grout. You can ruin all those things if you introduce too much water into them, because drywall mud, regular drywall mud, it's water soluble. And if you remember your high school chemistry class, it means that you can dissolve it. You can dissolve the thing in water. The problem that a lot of people have is that you might be tempted to add too much water to the drywall mud to get it to be workable. And you can add a little bit of water, and you have to really read the label on the bucket or the box to see what you're allowed to do. But I can guarantee you, if you add too much water, you're going to dilute the glue that is in the, hey, well, truth right here, buddy, gone. If you add too much water to the drywall mud, you're going to dilute the glue. All right, think about this. In other words, you're going to make less glue available because you've spread it out, and then it won't hold the tape on as well. It could literally just fall off the drywall. So you have to be really careful about how much water you add. And once again, it's on the label. You can read it, and it'll tell you what to do. One of the things that you may not know about is U.S. Gypsum. I have a link to this on the website. You can also go to Amazon and just get it. It's called the Gypsum Construction Handbook. I have a copy of it here. It's out in the other room. I should have had it here for the live stream. I mean, it's a thick paperback book, and it is the Bible of everything that you would ever want to know about drywall and plaster. And it's written pretty much for the contractor, but it's written in a way that you can understand it. And you didn't have to retract that. Well, and if you want to know the fine points about working with drywall mud, this is why I'm sharing this. You should really read the chapter or two about drywall mud. You don't have to read the whole book, but if there's anything you want to know about plaster or drywall, it's in that book. And there's not a doubt about it that USG, they are the go-to experts about everything plaster and drywall. Let's talk a little bit about the dry mix compounds. Remember, if you have a question about anything about your home, you can ask it in the chat. We can switch gears at any time. Just trying to give you the quick overview about drywall mud. There are different dry ones that you can get, and they're kind of interesting. They've been around for many, many years, and I can't tell you the exact chemistry of them, but they react a lot like plaster of Paris. If you've ever bought plaster of Paris, mixed it with water for a kid's school project or for something in Boy Scout to make a casting, once you mix the plaster of Paris with water, it doesn't take long and it gets hard. I mean, and that's it. And you're not gonna get it back to the smooth consistency of cake icing. That you can do that with joint compound, but you can't take joint compound that is dried, mix with water again to make it stick again. I mean, because the glue reaction, it's over. But you can get some really nice joints. They're called dry setting joint compounds, and the trade name that I've always used is Durabond, and they come with different set times. In other words, you can get Durabond 20, Durabond 30, Durabond 45, Durabond 90, and it just extends the working time. But what's really interesting about these dry setting joint compounds is that once you discover how to work with the material, you can make a drywall repair from start to finish in an hour's time. You cannot do that with regular joint compound because it takes too long for the regular joint compound to dry, the drywall mud. What's really interesting about the dry setting joint compounds, they mix up, they look just like regular drywall mud, they go on just like regular drywall mud, and you tool them the same way. But as it starts to get hard, if you know how to use an old-fashioned trowel and you get it a little bit wet, you can actually trowel out those edges that you normally would have to sand. In other words, if you've ever watched a true plaster work with lime, the lime white coat, the thin white coat, they just trowel that on and they work it. They don't sandplaster. You don't sandplaster because it's like concrete. I mean, in other words, once it gets hard, typical plaster's got a PSI rating, pounds per square inch, about 3,000 PSI. You're not sanding plaster. I don't know, maybe with a grinder you might, not with sandpaper. So that's the quick overview about drywall mud. It's good stuff. The biggest mistake that most homeowners make, most beginners, there's two mistakes you can make when you first start to use joint compound. The one is when you're taping, you're using the taping knife, you keep pressing against the tape and you take too much of the joint compound out. You have to have at least a 1/16 of an inch of the drywall mud between the tape and the drywall. And then adversely, if you leave too much underneath it and you get a big hump, then you have to put a lot of joint compound on to try to feather that out. It's a real art. And what you need to do is to show you how critical this is if you've got two pieces of drywall up that you've hung and you've got the tapered seams, butting one another. So in other words, let's just say that the two pieces of drywall are, here's one piece and here's another piece. They're butted together. My hands represent the tapered seam. So if you were to take, if you were to look sideways and you were to take a straight edge, like a 10-inch finishing knife that you would put a second coat on with, you'll notice that the gap that's created, the depression of the tapered edges, it's barely 1/8 of an inch. So in that 1/8 of an inch, you have to get a little bit of mud the thickness of the tape and then the thickness of the second coat that hides the tape. You can see why it's a real art. And not everybody can finish drywall. I'll tell you that right now. There's many people do not possess the hand-eye coordination to do it. I had a person that worked for me for years, and he could not do it. He just, I don't know how much of it was that he didn't want to do it, but every time I had him try to do it, he looked like, I don't know how to describe it. He just couldn't do it. All right, Will's got a point. I had a contractor spread something drywall mud on the new ceiling and use a brush to decorate with swirls. Yes, that's a very common practice back 30, 40, 50 years ago. And the reason a lot of drywall contractors did that is because, and sold people on it, it was a big sell job, was because it's really a lot of work to make a drywall ceiling smooth, by putting on the second and third coat. Because what they, in Will's situation, what they had to do, they just had to tape it, which is really simple to do, especially for those guys that are using a banjo, what we call a banjo, which is a machine, a very crude little machine that allows you to it puts the drywall mud on the tape for you, and it puts just the right amount on. And a drywall finisher who knows how to use a banjo, wow, they can really go, man. They can really go. So the drywall finisher just has to tape, and then he comes back the next day, and then he takes a big thick nap paint roller, rolls on the joint compound, and he either takes a brush to pop it. That's what they call the pop ceiling, or they will take a broom or a brush and they'll put the swirls in it. And that's a very, very, very common. My drywall finisher did that in my garage. The big problem with it is if you have to repair the drywall ceiling, it's really, really hard to match that texture to disguise the patch. So that's the big problem. I say we move on. So if you have a question about your home, type it in the chat. Love to hear how I can help you. I can share a couple of things. I already talked a little bit at the front end about the wisdom tooth. Here's my advice. If you have to get a tooth pulled, don't freak out about it. It's really not a big deal. I have no pain today. I just noticed lately I've been biting my cheek for some reason, which I don't quite understand why that's happening on that side. That shouldn't be happening. But could be some leftover residual from the Novocaine. But I just had a little bit of discomfort yesterday in the afternoon. They pulled the tooth out at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and the Novocaine had worn off, or whatever they shot me with, by noon. And I just had a little bit of discomfort in the afternoon, but it wasn't bad. I'm just telling you this, that if a dentist tells you that you have to get a tooth pulled, don't freak out. Don't it's not that big of a deal. It's really not. And as I said, while it was happening, I felt zero pain, zero, none. You just feel a little bit of pressure. And the pressure, I guess, the way you could mimic the pressure that I felt would be, seriously, if you just take your fingers and just kind of squeeze one of your fingers as hard as you can. That's about what I felt in my mouth. It wasn't much. It was not bad. No. The local anesthetic wore off, by noon. So I would say I was not medicated any longer. But I did drive to Mordor, I'll tell you that. And the traffic was great. No traffic problems, no issues going down. And I came out of the tunnel and went across that bridge there, the big white bridge, suspension bridge, I guess, over the Charles River, at about, I would say we crossed that at 6:45, and we're on I-95 north, and nothing. No, everybody was zooming. In fact, I was going through northern Massachusetts, man. Everybody was going 80 miles an hour. I just thought, okay, if everybody else is going 80, I'll go 80. I'm not, so I guess the state troopers just stay away. They know people want to get home. All right. So what I want to share with you, I updated a column today on the website where I think I may have told you this, that we're going through a big process of updating a lot of the columns on the website. We are actually making the Ask the Builder site ADA compliant as well. Stain Solver already is, but I worked on this one today for a little bit. Well, hello, Hancock. Hello, SJ. Good for you. I don't know where Hancock County is. Well, wait a minute. Is Hancock up near Bar Harbor? I'm wondering. I could look it up, but you could tell me. That sounds familiar to me. Anyway, crutch word. Anyway, flickering LED lights. If your LED lights flicker, you really need to read that column that I just put in there, and it's really interesting. So read the column about flickering LED lights because more and more people are switching over to them. There are more and more complaints about flickering LEDs, and you need to understand how the LED is, how it generates light completely differently from a traditional light bulb that's got the filament in it that literally, the reason a light bulb, have you ever thought about this? That's kind of interesting. Have you ever thought, how does a traditional light bulb create light? Have you ever thought about that? I actually think most people haven't. Things just happen around you and you don't really stop and think about it. Well, think how a fire, like a campfire, produces light, or a torch produces light. So it's, you've got something burning. You've got this gas, that is burning off the fuel, and just like a candle, and you do realize that, by the way. You do realize when a candle burns, it's not the wick that's burning. What's burning is the paraffin, the wax gets so hot. The candle gets it so hot as it's drawn up the wick that it actually boils and it turns into a gas. And the wax turns into it goes from solid to liquid to a gas state, and the gas is burning, just like natural gas or propane burns in your furnace or boiler. A traditional light bulb filament is burning. All right, that doesn't consume it because it's burning in a vacuum, but the electricity goes through and gets the filament so hot. I mean, it goes from red to orange to white. I mean, like instantly, because there is so much fire or burning, going on, and it glows. And that's what creates light in a regular light bulb. All right, well, if you go to dim a traditional light bulb, that filament stays hot for a long time. I mean, it doesn't, it does. In other words, for it not to give light, it's got to completely cool down. The LEDs, though, the LEDs, what happened is they don't do that. They are light emitting diodes, and they are strictly on off. There's no middle gray area where they're cooling down. So if there are slight variations in the power, and if for some reason your power supply is not delivering a constant stream of power, and the power is going up, down, up, down, up, down, it can flicker. And that's what's causing that flicker. Yeah, joint compounds, not plaster. In fact, Sean, I learned this early in my career. I used to work on a lot of old homes, and sometimes I would have to try to patch plaster. And I quickly discovered that the drywall compound, it does not stick well at all to plaster, especially the base coat. It does not stick at all to the wood lath It just like you go there the next day and it just peels off. If you need to patch old plaster, what you need to buy is you need to buy Structilite. So Structilite is a true like base plaster material that you mix with water, and it's got these small granules in it like sand, and that is very sticky. And you can get that to fill in where the wood lath is, bring it up really close to the surface of the plaster. And then if you use the dry setting joint compound, that will stick to the Structilite, and it will stick also to the plaster. I'm assuming is that you don't know how to work with lime putty, lime plaster, white coat. So anyway, that's how you fix old plaster. You got to use Structilite. Very affordable, comes in bags. It's a really easy product to work with. So that's interesting. That's a really great comment, SJS. So I just want to warn you. So here you say I've added wood glue to drywall powder, the setting type, with some success. So I call that amateur chemistry. All right. In other words, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that you're an amateur. You're not a chemist. And now glue, there's a lot to be said for how strong, the regular carpenter's glue is. It's just vinyl acetate, and a lot of a lot of them are not too water soluble after they dry. So you might try it, but I can just tell you, if you really want, if you wanted to make the dry setting compound stickier, instead of using glue, carpenter's glue, just go buy a bag of hydrated lime. I'm serious. Just regular hydrated lime. I talked about that, remember, last week. So you need to get this book. Yeah, hydrated lime. It's on Amazon. And just get some hydrated lime, put that into the dry setting compound, buddy. That is going to stick like crazy. Woo! It's going to stick really well. They say they make dimmable LEDs, but there's a lot of complaints out there on the internet about them. A lot of complaints. I get people come to me all the time and ask me about flickering LEDs, and I just ship them off to that page. All right, so let's see. So we had 62% of the people that have went out, dropped down to 56. So I'm going to end the poll. That's good. So we've had, a little over half of the people who took the poll who have worked with Drywall Mud. Good. Okay. What else did I want to talk about? My digital library, I still have, I decided to extend the price of my digital library for another week, because it's really, I've gotten a lot. Here's what's really interesting. I have sold a lot of these, and you need to go look at this link. I'm trying to get the link for you right now. And the picture's kind of odd. I just took a picture of the books that were behind me, because to me it looked like a library. But anyway, what you need to understand is that for just $49, you can get all of my digital library. It's crazy. It's like 120 products. If you were to buy them all separately, if you were just go to the shopping cart and just add them all into the cart, you'd be giving me about $1,250. So it's a big savings. I would highly recommend you take a look at the library. All right. So if you've got a question about your home, this is the time to ask me. I would love to solve a problem at your home. It's going to be cold here in New Hampshire tomorrow or tonight. Pretty cold. I think I don't know. Last time I looked, they keep kind of bouncing back and forth, but I think it's going to be -7, maybe -10 tonight. It's going to be cold. I'll tell you what's really interesting in the morning. I get up before dawn, and as I lay in bed, I look through a French door, glass door out across the lake. And on a clear day, like this morning was clear, and it's really interesting. You can see the planet right now. The planet Uranus is, it kind of rises just a little bit south of where the sun is coming up. But boy, is it bright. I mean, those planets in the sky, they're really bright. And if you've not downloaded and used one of those stargazing apps on your phone, you really should. Really helps you understand where things are in the sky. It's pretty amazing. But boy, Uranus, so bright. I mean, like, holy tomato. And I'll share this. It was maybe 3 years ago. Could have been 4. I was up at Sunday River Ski Resort in Maine, in Western Maine, and I'm chief of communications for the New England Forestry. And I was there with another one of my radio buddies. He was working the event. There were like 40 or 50 radio guys that come to work the event. But my buddy, who lives pretty close to me, he's only a few miles away, one of his hobbies, he likes stargazing. So he brought his telescope. And I had never, well, maybe many years ago, I looked through one. And it just so happened that it was a pretty clear night. It was summertime, maybe a little bit of haze, but not much. I mean, not like Florida or Cincinnati or Houston or New Orleans. And it just so happened that Jupiter was up in the sky at the time, and he adjusted this telescope onto Jupiter, and I looked at it. I could not believe it. I mean, I could see about 4 of the moons going around Jupiter. I mean, it was crazy. It was like, wow. I mean, you could get pretty interested in this, and we're at such a disadvantage here, on the Earth's face, looking through the atmosphere. But it was really pretty amazing. If you ever get an opportunity to look through a telescope, and there's a really good chance if you live near a bigger city that there's an astronomy club, and very frequently they have, I don't know, a couple of times a year, they have outings where they invite the public, and these guys set up their telescopes, and you can look through them. So I would highly recommend. That happened here in New Hampshire. I remember we went to one about 8 years ago, but pretty interesting. Will wants to know, have you used the spray foam insulation? And if so, how long does the smell last? It's better than fiberglass bats. Okay. She who must be obeyed is calling. Stand by. Hello. Yes, if you could, that'd be great. Yes, I didn't go up to get the mail. Thank you. Bye. That was she who must be obeyed. All right. So when she calls, you answer, right? Right. Spray foam. My first encounter with spray foam was, boy, I can actually tell you when it was. So let's see. My daughter, how old's my daughter going to be? My oldest daughter. She's going to be 38 this June. So it would have been 36 years ago, maybe 37. She was a baby. I built, it was my first job I did for this really fantastic man, husband and wife, Matt and Ginny Motz, M-O-T-Z, in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we became super good friends. And I ended up doing a lot of work for him. And he owned, you have to know the backstory. He owned the only poultry slaughterhouse in Cincinnati, Ohio, in greater Cincinnati. And I think, well, let's put it this way. They would slaughter Monday, Wednesday, and Friday a flatbed semi-tractor trailer that was filled with chicken coops, with maybe 8 chickens in each coop. I don't know. But I don't know. They either did 1,500 each day or 6,000. I don't know. It was a lot. And these were chickens that were all not. He was organic before it was a thing. Like right now, everybody wants to eat organic, which is a really good idea. And he had these Amish farmers in northern Ohio actually raise the chicks. Matt would buy the little baby chicks and he would ship them to a farmer. He would send the farmer all the feed. And about 57 days later, baby, they gave up their life. So a lot of people don't know that chickens, the average age of a chicken is under 60 days. And if you let the chicken go too much longer, they get too big and it's not that good. All right. So that's the backstory. So I had to build this room addition. So, you need to understand that up at the chicken plant where they did all the slaughtering, they had to have a lot of refrigeration to keep the chicken, while they butchered it. And he had a lot of things foamed. He was a believer in urethane spray foam insulation. He said when I was in the bidding process, he said, "Listen, we're not gonna use that crap fiberglass stuff in my addition. I'm gonna bring in my own insulation contractor, the guy that works for me up at the plant, and we're gonna spray the room addition." And this guy came in, man, sprayed it. They had the foam would come out past. He knew exactly how to do it so that just a little bit of foam came out past the face of the 2x4s, and he had a special like rasp, and he would rasp off he would slide it along the studs, and it would be perfect. I mean, so the insulation touched right up against the back of the drywall. He also spray foamed. We had some air conditioning duct work up in the attic, and he spray foamed all of that. And to make a long story short, it was amazing. It's an amazing product. My guess is the foam wool that's used now in many ways is safer and better as far as toxicity. We used some spray foam at my daughter's new home up on Bar Harbor 3 years ago to insulate the band boards where the floor trusses went, because it was impossible to put fiberglass in the right way. So we spray foamed all that. And there was a warning the day that the contractor did that. No one was allowed in the house for 24 hours while it off-gassed. After it off-gassed, the next day, I don't recall any odor. So my biggest here's my big problem with foam, though. My big problem with it is, and I know this is a, this is, I don't know, is it a 1 in 100? Is it a 1 in 1,000? I don't know. But my problem is if you have to do a repair, it's really a problem to cut. I mean, it's problematic to get the foam out of the way, do the repair, and then respray. Whereas fiberglass, pretty easy to get out of the way. So and then what it comes down to is there's always that cost, that return on investment factor. And remember, we've talked about that. I know back in November, early December, I dedicated a live stream to that. In other words, if this spray foam is only giving you an R factor of 2 or 3 better than fiberglass, this is a rhetorical question. How long is it going to take you to break even in heating savings to pay for that extra you paid for the spray foam? I mean, it could be a really long time. It could be a really long time. And you can do the math on that. It's not easy, but you can calculate the BTU heat loss or heat gain through that wall or those walls using the 2 different R factors and see what it is. But I just from a health standpoint, I can tell you this, that I've built new, which I plan to do, there's no way that I would use. Well, Kathy would never let me use the spray foam. She just thinks that there's too many health hazards with it, no matter what the manufacturer said. Because the trouble is, some other manufacturers have peed in the pool, so to speak. In other words, some other manufacturers, not necessarily in the insulation industry, but in other places, have said, "Oh, everything's fine, and then it comes out it's not fine. So as a result, we as consumers lose trust, and that's where Kathy is. She doesn't. We would just put fiberglass in, and I think really, if you put fiberglass in and you are really good about sealing the air leaks, it's really air infiltration that is the biggest energy thief of all. Air infiltration just kills you. And so you really want to get control of that. You want to put much more effort into air infiltration, in my opinion. All right, Jason's here. Hi, Jason. How you doing? The dentist visit was good. It was very interesting how it happened. It only took about 10 minutes to get the tooth out. No pain at all during the procedure. And after the local anesthetic wore off, after lunch, I just had like a dull aching pain up there. If I push on it right now, it could be a little sore, but it was pretty easy. I'd highly recommend it. In other words, I said earlier in the stream that if your dentist ever tells you that you have to have a tooth pulled, like, don't freak out. Don't go like, it's no big deal. I'm telling you, no big deal. All right, 8-bit vinyl. Speaking of spray foam insulation, seeing how we both live in New Hampshire, can you recommend any? No, that's a great question. I do not know any companies that do it. I'm sure there's quite a few. And as I just said before, just really, really do your homework about, do the math on it. Do the math. Because it could take you a long time to break even. And that's and I'm, like I said, I'm just a little conscious about the health stuff. I really am. Right. SU says, I renovated an 1880s farmhouse. We took it down to the studs, spray foamed after a few repairs, blah, blah, blah. Yes. That's one good thing about the foam. It's gonna seal up the air leaks in those cavities, but you could still have air leaks in a bunch of other places. But boy, in the stud cavities, you bet. So it's a really, I have. I don't want to call it spray. It's not spray foam. It's foam. In my shed, I've got a big shed up on the hill, 16 by 24. You buy the plans for it at the shopping cart. In fact, you get them as part of the package of the digital library. But I have 4 inches of foam, but it's the foam that's done at the factory of the blue Dow foam in the floor of the shed. So whoever, even I did that on purpose because it would be really, really hard after the fact to insulate that floor. So right now that floor in the shed's got an R20. So anyone who turns that shed into a workshop that you would heat, the floor is already done. And I like that because I feel that the foam is really pretty isolated, because of the plywood. Really, really hard for any off-gassing to get up through there. But I've never smelled any odor from, the solid core foam, the closed cell foam that you buy, whether it be Dow or Owens Corning. But foams are good. We got to look how many things that we use that have foam insulation. Picnic coolers, the list is probably a mile long. It's been around for a long time. Yes, dentist thing went well. So no big deal. They just got a list of stuff that you have to do, and what you're not supposed to do, for a couple of days afterwards, like no straws, no spitting. I don't smoke anyway, but no cigarettes. You're not allowed to smoke. No aspirin. I got a special mouthwash I have to use. got to gargle with salt water, blah, 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 blah. So it's just a bunch of common sense. Just like Kathy says, what's really interesting, our bodies are really, they're really smart. That when you injure something in your mouth, it heals really quickly, much, much faster than another place on your body. And the reason being is our bodies know, like, dude, we need to eat something tomorrow or 2 days from now. We can't be waiting 6 weeks, like the length of time it takes a bone to heal, to be eating. So I haven't looked up in there, but I had very little bleeding afterwards, and I had no bleeding since then. I'm sure the blood clot's fine. I don't think I'm going to get a dry socket. Um, so I think, let's see, today is Wednesday. By Friday, we're pretty much going to be back to normal. All right. Any other questions about things at your home? By the way, I sent an invitation out. I don't know I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't put anything in the subject line. I sent an invitation out for the Zoom call for Friday. To those who said they want to be on the Zoom call. And I asked this question earlier. No one answered. And thanks, Al. If you are a Zoom expert, I'm not. I mean, I've done a lot of Zoom calls, but I'm not an expert. So I've only got a free account, and the call only lasts 40 minutes. So my question is, once they cut us off, can everybody just like disconnect and then go back and reconnect using the same invitation that was used on the first call? Is that possible? Do you know the answer to that? If you are more of an expert than I am. If so, please type it in the chat. I'd appreciate it. Anything else that you want me to talk about or mention, I'm happy to do. I'm happy to comment on just about anything. I will just say a little bit about the weather. Everybody's getting kind of whipped up about this storm that's going to happen here on Saturday. And, the only story I can tell you is a little over a year ago, Winter Storm Gale hit here, and Bernie Rayno, who's like the top meteorologist at AccuWeather, he predicted you're going to get 16 inches of snow, to us. Well, he was wrong. We got 39 inches. I don't really blame him. I mean, because we could have just as easily gotten 8. But this storm, it could be a doozy. But luckily, the way it's looking like temperature-wise, it's not going to do what the last one did. The last one was kind of an odd storm, and the end of it was like an hour of rain, which the snow that had fallen was pretty light and fluffy, which is easy to deal with. But then that hour of rain turned it into concrete. Oh my gosh. This is to get a new number for the next Zoom. Okay. It looks like the snow that is going to fall is going to be, fluffy, powdery, easy to work with. Will says, my wife says to get a new number for the next Zoom. Okay. Jason says we can use the same one, but wait a minute. Okay. That's probably what we're going to do. I have a feeling, just a wild feeling, that this Zoom call could easily last 2 hours. I mean, easy. Because I'm going to try to do as little talking as possible. I want to hear all about you. I'll be honest. I mean, I'll be the moderator, but I'm just saying I talk all day long. You hear from me all the time. I want to hear from you. Okay, good. At this point, if everybody shows up, there would only be 8 people on the call. I think we'll maybe have 6. That's just a guess. Al wants to know. Yes. Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, by then I should be able to eat something. I'll definitely probably have a snack. um, Al wants to know, how do you think the upcoming rise in interest rates will affect the building business this year? That's a great question. I don't know how high the Fed's going to raise them. They can't raise it too much because it will just completely derail the economy. I mean, the older I've gotten, back when I was younger, because I did not have much interest in politics, I'd had no clue how all of this stuff is intertwined. All right. And it would have been different if it was a year ago. But here's the trouble. We're now, just 10 months away from the midterm elections. And the last thing that the current party that's in power wants to do is alienate people like us. They call us smoke, by the way. We just so you know, I don't know if you know this or not, but we're insignificant to them. We are meaningless. In fact, they want to kill a bunch of us. I know that sounds crazy, just telling you, because you know what? They feel that we're using up too many of the resources. All right. I know you're thinking I should put a tin hat on. I'm telling you, it's true. Because the midterm elections are so close, they have to really be careful about these interest rates, Al. If they raise them up too much, they are really going to piss off people, man. Really mess up the economy. So my prediction is, to your question, I don't think it's going to affect it very much at all. Rob says, I tried to connect today and eventually realized that it's Friday, not today. Correct. It's Friday. That's what it said on the invite. Yeah. This crazy. What? Same thing. Once I've gotten older, what the heck is going on? Why? This is a rhetorical question, and this is not a political live stream. And I am by no means an expert in foreign policy. All right. So, all that said, what in the world do we care about Ukraine for? I mean, let's just go back 30 years or so ago, right? 30, 40 years ago. Ukraine was part of the USSR. Come on. And then things kind of fell apart after the Cold War fell apart, after we won the Cold War. And then, it all just kind of, so Ukraine went their own way and a bunch of those other Eastern European countries, and Russia lost them. Oh, well, get over it. And of course, from Russia's perspective, I mean, if you understand anything about, so the Ukraine was Russia's, here's what you need to know. Ukraine is to Russia what Kansas, Iowa, California, is, Illinois is, Ohio is to the United States, meaning it's their breadbasket. The Ukraine has got an incredible climate to grow food. All right. That's a major part of what they do. And when you're thinking about running a country, well, just look back to the French Revolution. What started it off? I mean, the people were getting more and more upset, about the tyrant, the king. But finally, the straw that broke the camel's back was food. So, I mean, if you want to start a revolution, if you want to stay in power, here's the way to look at it. If you want to stay in power, you got to make sure your people are not hungry. I mean, that's like rule number one. Like, make the people have a full belly, then they'll put up with a lot of other pain. But man, when people are hungry, all bets are off, buddy. That's what happened in France, late 1700s. None of this is hard. How many times have I said that? None of this is hard. History is the roadmap. Go back into history. It tells you exactly where we're going. You know, history it's like looking in the rearview mirror. You can see exactly where you're going. About that in my one newsletter about 5 weeks ago. Got a quote. Ukrainian batters more. Yeah, right. I'll tell you what matters. Black flies. Black flies matter. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so what did I want to say? So anyway, I don't think interest rates are going to be too bad. You know, you don't want to be strung out on debt anyway, especially a line of credit, because that's tied to the to the rate. But for years, I mean, over 10 years, they've been having to give money away, and the reason why is because of all the money they're putting in circulation. It's a very complex thing. It's really complex, and I can tell you this: inflation's not going away. That I can tell you, not going away anytime soon. Exactly. Black flies matter. I got a little sign right here at my window. Black flies matter. Oh. All right. Any other questions about anything? I will gladly answer them. We lost some people. Probably pissed them off. It's not. I know we're not a political live stream, but sometimes, unfortunately, like some of these topics, they're kind of intertwined. In other words, Al, that was a great question. I mean, it really was. And just talk to any, what I would call a spec builder. A spec builder. There are lots of builders out there who just build, and they put a house up for sale, hoping it's going to sell. They're not custom home builders. And boy, let me tell you, they live or die by the interest rates. They live or die by interest rates. I wouldn't say I've given up on the wood ash, but I can tell you, it sure didn't work like my neighbor told me it would. So I'm not. But in his defense, he probably gets a lot more sun than I get. So and I agree with you, Will. The big problem with it is, I sure don't want to be putting it down close to the house where we walk, because you'll be tracking that stuff in till the cows come home. Oh, okay, Al. Yeah, we'll be. I'll be here Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun on the Zoom call. I don't know about you. Can't wait to see Steve and hear him talk. That thick British accent. I do have trouble with that sometimes. So I hope we understand what he says. We'll have the chat going in Zoom so that people can interpret what he's saying, for those of us who can't hear very well. Oh my gosh. Well, I have a little bit of news. We're doing a little celebration here tonight at the Carter house. I had to go to Boston. I'll tell you this right now. She gave me permission to tell you. I can't give you very many particulars. All right. So sorry about that. But last Thursday, I had to drive my daughter down to Boston to the airport because she was taking a flight from Boston to Dulles, in Washington, D.C. And the next morning, she got on a private jet. And she was shadowing as a flight attendant. In other words, she's taken the training and she put together an incredible portfolio. She has all the right skills. And anyway, so she flew. I'm not allowed to tell you who was on the plane. I'm sorry about that, but you would know. And they flew from Washington to Seattle, Seattle to Las Vegas, Las Vegas back to DC, and they did that over 3 days. And it was the same people, same group on the plane. And so she did fantastic. The company she was with, she got a job offer, and she had a really good time. But today, she had a second interview with a different company that she liked a little bit more, and she got a job offer. So she's floating up at the ceiling, high as can be. I mean, think of this. Think of what she's going. Actually, the head flight attendant that she was with. Remember, these are private jets. This is not a flight attendant on Southwest or United. I'm talking private jets. I asked my daughter when we were driving back from Boston last night. I picked her up yesterday. One of my questions was, I said, so tell me, I'm not going to tell you the woman's name. I'm just going to say Sharon. We're going to say Sharon was the head flight attendant who she trained with, but that's not her name. I said, did Sharon ever share with you, like, where's her favorite place to go? And Kelly said, oh, yeah. She loves it when they fly to Bali. So think of the places that my daughter's going to be going. I mean, she gets to travel. She gets paid to travel the world and eat the finest foods, stay in the best hotels, flies on private jets. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I'm a pretty proud dad. And so we're going to eat out tonight. She texted me on the screen where we're going to go. Well, Jason, here's what's going to happen. Number one, we're not going to record the call. We're not doing that for all kinds of reasons, for privacy reasons. Number two, it's not going to be the last one. We're just going to kind of see how it goes. And then, we may end up doing a call on a different day, like a weekend when you don't work. So, to make it convenient for you that you can make it. So don't stress out about if you can't make it, if you have to work late. Work's more important. So don't worry about it. Yeah. You got to stand in line behind me, Will. I've flown on a private jet one time. I flew from Seattle to Philadelphia. Here's something a lot of people don't know about private jets. This is a really interesting thing, a point. When was the last time you saw a private jet up in the sky? And I'm not talking about when they're coming in for a landing or taking off. I'm talking about when they're at altitude. And if you go, wow, you know what? I don't ever recall seeing a private jet in the sky. You know why that is? I'll give you a minute. See if you know what the answer is. Why is it you don't see private jets in the sky? Remember, I'm not talking about when they're landing or taking off. Do you know why? Come on, type it in the chat. It's not hard. Think about it. It's not hard. This is not a hard one. All right, I'll give you another 30 seconds. You can also, don't be ashamed. You can, well, maybe you are ashamed, maybe. Will's right. Will's exactly right. They usually, so the private jets, they fly high. They fly higher than the commercial aircraft, like by 2 miles. They're flying usually up around 45,000 feet. So think how small a giant 737 is when you see it in the sky. So then go 2 more miles and you think you're going to see a small private jet? You're dreaming. The reason they're authorized to fly higher is because the air is thinner up there and they go faster. There's less friction. Isn't that amazing? So the rich people, remember, those who control everything, they control everything. They're pulling the levers behind the scenes. They're donating the money to the politicians, and the politicians are the ones who control the bureaucrats. And so the rich people say, listen, We need to fly faster. We need to get from point A to point B. So we need you to let us go up there. So that's why it happened. So anyway, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to get out of here. I had a great time today. And 2 days, just today's Wednesday. We're going to be on the Zoom call in just 2 days. It's going to be awesome. Look for that invite. I will. I didn't ask for anybody to respond back to me. I'm just going to assume that everybody got the invite, and we'll see what happens. Ah, are you kidding me? You are very late. What the heck, Shannon? What the heck, man? By the way, Shannon, I don't. If you want to, I'm glad you're here. If you want to do the Zoom call on Friday, we're doing the Zoom call on Friday. If you want to do that, I didn't send you the invite because you never reached out to me. I don't have your email address, so there's no way I'm putting that invite in this chat. All right. So if you want to be in on the Zoom call, Shannon, you got to email me. All right. So the best way is to go to the Ask the Builder website, go to the Ask Tim page, fill out the form. You know, I need your name, I need your email address, and in the comment area, just say, "Hey Tim, it's Shannon from the live stream," and I'll know what to do, and then I'll send you the invite. And when I sent that invite out to everybody, I blind carbon copied everybody. I don't, no one's going to know anybody else's email address. My black dress. Yeah, I know. I don't know that I'm going to have time to go get one. That may be for a future live stream. Oh my gosh. Black dress. That ginger in that video, she looked pretty good. She was a nice young lass. I'll bet you she was 5'10". That's my guess. She was pretty tall. You could just tell she was tall. She would dwarf me. All right. So, all right, I'm going to get out of here. So Shannon, sorry you just tuned in. We talked about my wisdom tooth getting pulled yesterday. It was no big deal. Talked about a lot of stuff. And Al had a lot of questions. Will had some good ones about spray foam insulation. It was a good live stream. I'm looking forward to dinner tonight. We're going to have Chinese. So we don't get that very often. So I'm going to go out and get it. It's a little bit of a drive to get it, but that's okay. Oh, outpatient surgery. Well, I hope it looks like it must have gone all well. You look like you're in a good mood. So I hope the recovery's quick and pain-free. As simple as that. Yeah. Chinese. I like Chinese food. My Kathy makes a fantastic stir fry. Water chestnuts, bean sprouts, baby corn. I said water chestnuts. All the good little things. Chicken, of course, broccoli, some onion, and a really great sauce, a really tasty sauce. Okay, good. I'm glad that surgery went well. So yeah, I like Chinese a lot. I love it. Good stuff. I'm out of here. I will be here tomorrow. We're going to have fun on Friday on the Zoom call. Are you kidding me? It's going to be amazing. Amazing Zoom call. So don't forget, Shannon, to email me. And so I can send the invite to you. All right. Have a great night. I had a lot of fun today. Jason, see you, buddy. See you, Will. See you, Shannon. See you, Al, if you're still here. Rob. I had a lot of people here today. A lot of SJC, I think. I'm trying to, it's hard to go. Yeah, SJ, SU. A lot of good stuff today. A lot of good questions. Don't worry about it, Shannon. Here's what's cool for what it's worth. YouTube curates it and people can watch it afterwards, but it's not live. And you get also to see I click a button that allows people to see the chat. So that's good. And that's why we want to always zap those bad people, because we don't want to give them any free advertising, when this replays over time. All right. Okay. I'm out of here. Tim Carter, Ask the Builder. We're going to be live tomorrow if everything goes right. It should. 4 until who knows when, tomorrow here, Eastern time. I'm Tim Carter, Ask the Builder, getting ready to have some Chinese. I'll see you later.